Yo, what's going on, Etheria fam? I'm Sue, and if you recall from the last video, we talked about the dev notes for Etheria Restart, how the devs see things, their vision for the game, so on and so forth. And I broke down and gave you my opinions on all of the stuff that was in it. And one of the major points that I was really harping on was this one right here. Point number 7, Inferno Rengokutsu help is on the way. Inferno Rengo has been a pretty sore spot, I feel like, for a lot of members of the community, especially because it drops some very important shells, such as Codex of Magic, Lighthouse, things that are really important for speeding up your account progression or getting into PvP with certain playstyles. Me personally, seeing as this is just a farming stage, something that you're going to be playing hundreds or thousands of times over your Etheria career, I think they should have just nerfed it and made it easier for players to actually get into it. But instead, they went with this solution that says that they are releasing a new banner that features a character specifically designed to help Crush Rengokutsu and other challenging PvE content. So here are the two characters that they are putting forth that are supposed to help alleviate the problem with Inferno Rengo. We now know them as Batbsy, the one on the left, and Ninfoniel, the girl on the right. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go through both of the characters' kits and talk about what I think about them. And more importantly, do I think they solved the issue of actually dealing with Inferno Rengokutsu? So let's waste no time here. Let's jump on over to Batbsy's video here. So Batbsy is basically a DPS that is designed to deal bonus damage based on the number of debuffs that is on the enemy team. That alone, by the way, means that he's going to need a lot of lattice investment because he is primarily a DPS. Like, lattice is usually how you deal more damage. You want to deal as much damage as possible. Which, by the way, I think it's funny in this video. I'll just back up here for a second. This is a character that deals bonus damage based on his debuffs, right? And they show him here in this video being a DPS that's fighting Sharon. So he cares about the number of debuffs afflicted to targets, and they show him fighting Sharon, which is really funny because this is like the one boss you can't actually debuff in the game. So, that's kind of a bit puzzling. So let's jump on over here, guys. You can see skill 1 deals damage to a single enemy with a chance to inflict anti-heal. Right, that's decent. For each unique debuff on Batbsy, the target Batbsy's damage dealt increases. So that's kind of his whole shtick. Get as many unique debuffs on the target as possible. The character will deal more damage overall. If you look at the skill 2 here, it's an AoE attack, and critical hits extend the duration of existing debuffs. So kind of like a Shadow Sonya, but you actually need to crit, right? But it is for all debuffs. So that's decent. But so far, you're 2 skills into the kit for Batbsy, a character that cares about having multiple types of debuffs, and he only has one type of debuff represented. And then Ultimate here deals AoE damage and applies a vulnerability for 2 turns. Each critical hit on an enemy grants Batbsy a strike prep increase or a turn meter increase. They still use the old language in the videos as opposed to the language that's used within the game. And there you go. That's basically it for Batbsy's entire kit. A character that's based entirely around debuffs, only having 2 in the kit, is a little bit weird. And I don't really particularly like this character all that much. I think in time he'll be a very powerful PvE character, because characters like this that deal damage based on your opponent having a certain number of debuffs is very, very strong for quick clears in a lot of PvE content in these types of games. The problem with him in PvP is, since he requires you to have so many unique types of debuffs, he's a combo character where you either need Batbsy basically and a certain type of character, like maybe like a Kloss, that gives a ton of different unique debuffs. And if they see you have Batbsy and Kloss, they're going to just ban the Kloss or the Batbsy in the post ban, and you're going to be like, oh, my combo doesn't really work. So you're going to have to like heavily dedicate, I think, too many resources in the draft for him to be really good, unless his damage is just absolutely astronomical where it's worth the risk. Like if he has just like solid damage without the combo and insane damage with combo units, then maybe it might be worth it. But historically, in these types of PvP gotchas, characters like Batbsy are usually relegated to PvE, and considering he is primarily a DPS, is just going to need a lot of lattice investment. And I think we're at a point in the game, I've talked about it in multiple videos at this point, lattices are pretty scarce, I feel like, for a lot of players. Most people only have like 1 or 2 laying around, and they've already got several projects on the back burner that they're going to be waiting weeks to invest future lattice into. Picking up a character like Batbsy now when you're already pretty low on lattice, I don't really feel like you're going to get a ton of value out of him. Of course, I could be wrong. These are my first impressions of the character. But these types of characters are going to be heavy investment, and like I said, usually relegated to PvE. As far as Rengokutsu, I don't think this character solves that problem. Most people are already struggling with Rengo because they have low resources and can't afford to build new things. So tossing a character that is going to potentially be a pretty heavy lattice sink, I don't think really addresses the issue. So while I think this is a good character for PvE content going forward, I'm not sure if your goal is to clear Rengo right now that this is the character for you. Again, that's just my opinion. Anyways, let's move on over to the other character, Ninfoniel, and see if she is a bit different. So this character actually, I think, is quite good. So she is essentially an all-purpose support, and when you see her kit, you'll realize this is like a very, very, very good character, I feel like, overall. Even though her kit is probably a little bit boring, right? The character on paper is not very exciting, but I think is really, really strong. So let's just jump on over to the actual kit here. So skill 1 is a single target attack with a chance to give her resistance buff for 2 turns. So it makes her effect resistance go up, makes her harder to debuff. So if you put her on things like the Bramble module set and she gets a counter, then she becomes significantly harder to debuff. Just even as an off turn, having your support making it more difficult for your opponents to control the character is actually pretty good. Even though it seems very boring, you would rather have like a stun here, or a defense break, or some kind of turn meter manipulation, or like a sleep. Something like that always would feel more exciting than a resistance buff on a support. But this is still a pretty powerful basic attack skill based on how you build the actual character. And so if we move on to skill 2 here, it redistributes all allies' HP evenly, and then heals the entire party, which is essentially kind of like a Valerian S3, but you don't have the safety net of the bubble, the Hazy Dream. You don't have that anymore, but it's still a redistribution and a heal, which where Valerian is just a redistribution, and then you get the Hazy Dream bubble. You have to look at it this way. You don't have like the insta kill protection you would have from Valerian, but you do get higher HP, which does inherently give you some survivability. And it's not like Hazy Dream bubble is really saving you from multi-hit moves in the first place. So you could kind of think of it like a side grade to Valerian's S3 is her S2. It doesn't seem like it, but that's effectively what the skill actually is. And then if you look at the ultimate skill here, the skill 3, it gives attack buff for 2 turns to your entire team, Rhyme Bloom to your turn for the entire team, and immunity to your entire turn for your entire team for 1 turn, excuse me. So that's a pretty stacked S3 for a support skill, right? Attack buff increases your firepower. That's obviously going to be super good for doing big damage, very good for PvE content, also very good for PvP content. The 1 turn immunity on your entire team, obviously good for blanking specific skills in PvP, so that's awesome. Can also be used to dodge specific problem points like Sharon, right? Where you get like just bombarded with dots. Immunity is a very popular strategy to deal with that as well. And then Rhyme Bloom, they explain it here, what it actually does. It is effectively a barrier, like a shield for your entire team, and it also gives a bonus attack buff that based on who you target with it, right? I'm sorry, that's the target is the 1 turn extra. My bad, I misspoke. When you target it with the skill, the target will get an extra turn of Rhyme Bloom, but Rhyme Bloom itself is a shield that gives increased attack, and it stacks with attack buff. So effectively, you have to look at it like Bayenton, where you're getting 2 types of offensive buffs, an attack buff and like a crit damage buff in the case of Bayenton. This is, you're getting an attack buff, and then you're getting essentially a second attack buff that stacks with attack buff as long as you have this barrier. So the fact that you're getting effectively 2 attack buffs, a barrier, and an immunity on Ninfoniel's skill 3 here, her ultimate, that's strong, guys. Like, that's universally very, very good. I expect that to be really good in all game modes. And I think of the 2 that we talk about today, Ninfoniel is absolutely worth the pickup. I think this is the one that I'm going to be using my summons for, the one that I'm going to be trying to roll for in Etheria Restart. That said, I don't know if this character actually answers the original question that we had, which is the help with Inferno Rengokutsu. It is a generically powerful support. It is very, very strong. I expect her to be super good there. But most people, the most free-to-play friendly clear, at least that I'm aware of, that people are using, are things like Vice, Deting, or I guess Lilium if you have her waiting around, Kloss, and then Ling Luo. So if you have Ling Luo, right, and Ninfoniel, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is an odd Animus, right, is a blue Animus, you really don't want to be playing two of the same type against Rengo because it just increases the RNG overall of the fight. So the fact that both of them are blue and the most free-to-play friendly option that people are using is blue is very puzzling to me. So I don't know, maybe I'm just not experienced enough, not a seasoned enough Etheria Restart veteran to see how these characters help, as they're using their words here, crush Rengokutsu. I don't really see that. I do think Ninfoniel crushes a lot of content in the game. I just don't know if it crushes Inferno Rengo specifically. For everything else that's not Teramaton, I think she's going to be fantastic and one of the best options just in general. I definitely think she's going to probably be one of the better characters in the entire game. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think she's going to be like the best support when characters like Lily and Doki Doki exist. But I definitely think this is a character that is like up there. So if you're wondering which one to pull, I think that is the one. And I think only time will tell whether or not these characters actually help with Rengokutsu. So just to recap, I think Batbsy is going to be strong in the future if you're willing to give him a ton of investment, but not really in PvP. And I think Ninfoniel is very strong elsewhere. And just a giant question mark on in whether or not Inferno Rengo is actually going to be still difficult or like just made trivially easy with the help of these new characters. But yeah, those are my thoughts on everything that was shown. Let me know down in the comments below, how are you feeling about both of the new characters? Do you think I got something wrong? Would love to hear from you as always. And yeah, I guess the big question, do you think these guys will help with Rengokutsu? Anyways, as always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.